So for part 2 of this video, I'm going to show you the differences in the balanced spring mechanisms underneath all of these tympani. We'll start with the original, which is the Ludwig. The classic. I'll give you a different angle actually. Most people in America will be familiar with these, probably in all high schools, etc. So let's go underneath. We'll show you the mechanism. Pull it back a bit, you can see the pedal. We've got the pedal linked here to the pivot, and you can see the spring, which is adjusted from on the top. It's in a sort of brass tubular housing. You can see a little set screw at the end, but you can actually see the spring inside that brass tube. And if you look at the pivot, how it works, that's putting the note up, bringing the pitch down, so you can actually see the whole body of the spring moving. But basically, it's one pivot here. That's the rod that controls the head and the spider inside the shell. There's the pedal and there's the spring. But I mentioned in the first video, if you look at Google Patents, you can actually see these in nice line drawings. There's a sort of, not quite a clutch here, but it's just, I think, just to smooth out the pedal. It's got an adjustment in there. If anyone knows the exact age of this model, by all means put a comment on it. But as I said, this is the original patented balanced action tympani from Ludwig. So now we'll go to the big sound from Adams. As I mentioned, it's an 80s vintage drum, I think. I'm not sure the exact date of manufacture, but from the outside, rather that way, it's very similar to the Premier in look. But we're not looking at Premier drums because they don't have balanced action. So they've all got the spring. This time Adams have put it horizontal on the same plane as the floor, as the pedal. So if I do this, let me have a look. No, you're going to want to closer up. Yeah, close up. You can see if I move the pedal, I might be in the light a bit, but see, the whole body of the spring moves. That's putting the note to the top. That's bringing the pedal down. One main pivot, and the pivot on the spring, and the pivot on the pedal. They've combined the spring pivot and the tension of the head pivot. If you do a close up of it, you can see that way. That's putting the pitch down, releasing the tension. This is putting the pitch up, adding tension, pulling the head down. Which you just about make out down that tube. It's the metal top to the spring. I'll just compare that again to the Ludwig. There, they've got a brass casting. The bottom of the spring, the pedal, and then the pivot. So this one has actually got less moving parts, or less pivots. You can see 1, 2, 3. You can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, and the spring is on the top. But note, there's no adjustment. You can see just about the bottom of the spring there. If I can get it closer. There's the bottom of the spring. But there's no adjustment at the end of the spring, like the Ludwig. There's no sort of a clutch along the rod to the pedal. It's a nice pivot up here. Note the thick aluminium castings, it's good actually. But yeah, the principle is still the same. It's just the spring has been moved and the pivots are slightly different. So we're now going to go to the Yamaha. I'll just go back and look, there's the spring right underneath the pedal. So flat, parallel to the floor on the horizontal, like the Adams. Yamaha have moved it underneath the pedal. A lot more parts in the Yamaha mechanism. From my first video, you probably remember I said I like this design because they've hidden the spider underneath. You can see this. So none of those rods are exposed, they're all hidden in the base. Now these drums date back from, I think, the late 80s, when they first came out. But going back to the pivot, it's a bit hidden by the spring, but the main pivot is there on the casting of the base. And there's the spider. There's a brace going back to the front of the base, which is pointing forward, away from the player. It's not doing anything apart from bracing that spider mechanism. Then that goes back to the spring. And the pedal is pushing the frame that goes along the outside of the spring, another sort of brass tube. So it does seem more complicated, sort of more adjustment screws and things. But they've just turned the spring around from that way on the Adams Big Sound, opposite the pedal, to this way, underneath the pedal. But they've included an adjustment, like the old Ludwig, on top. The Yamaha have got this rod that goes down inside the spring, and it's adjusted there, underneath the pedal. Not the best place to put it, but it's easy enough to adjust. If I had a third hand, I'd put the key on there and show you how it's adjusted. But there again, this is just to show how the balanced action and the pivots work on these drums. That's the tension down, this is putting the tension up. So it's all round that pivot. So 3, 1, 2, 3, and like I said, this is a brace, just bracing the whole mechanism onto the base, the frame of the drum. So we've got the oldest, dating back, like I said, to the 50s or the 60s. Then possibly early to mid 80s from Adams. Then late 80s from Yamaha. You can see the change in the sort of technology and the materials. Now we go further forward to the professional series from Adams. Like I said, this drum might be 6, 7, 8 years old. So we've got the spring in the same place as the Big Sound. There's the adjustment for the spring I showed you in the first video. They've got this brass sort of frame casting, but the pivot is the main point. Look, 3 points. They've shared the spring with that. Obviously there's a lot of grease inside the spring, and it goes up. There's that to the pedal. There's the pivot of the pedal. Down. So the main point is 3. They've combined the spring pivot and the head tension rod pivot. Same as the Big Sound. So that part of their design is identical. They haven't done anything to that part of the design. they've just put this mechanism to adjust the spring. Hopefully that's clear enough. So that is the Professional series. That, like I said, is a 32-inch drum with 6 tension rods. We're now going to the Majestic. Like I said, this is the newest of all of these, possibly 4 or 5 years old, one of the last ones to be built in Holland. So like the Adams, they're both built in Holland. They've got the spring opposite the pedal, parallel to the floor. I might just go and move the light actually. This other frame. It's nice actually. The adjustment knob on top. But yeah, look, the pivot is a 3 pivot again. The spring is combined with the head tension rod. That's putting the tension down, that's raising the tension. Obviously there's a lot less dirt and dust into this. This is the newer drum. A nice touch on the Majestic is these wheels underneath the pedal, which makes moving the drum around a lot easier. Small touch. I hope they could do it on all drums, to be honest. Anyway, that's about it. It's a bit longer this video, sorry about that. The last part 3 will show you these drums with the heads off.